The difference between women who argued for the special qualities of women, difference, and those who insisted that women deserved the vote because they shared a common humanity with men, sameness, resonated into the 1920s and beyond. Let me give you two examples. Annie Nathan Meyer, who was one of the founding members of the coalition that created Barnard College, had at first opposed suffrage for women because she thought that asking for the vote expressed an unseemly resentment of men. And Barnard women, of course, were meant to be ladies with no such resentment. But after women got the vote, she changed her position. Women who had the vote should provide renewed attention to motherhood, to female culture, and to the ways in which women could benefit the polity, she thought. She, for example, Annie Nathan Meyer, might have been a good friend of some of the women who established the Children's Bureau in 1912. By 1920, the Children's Bureau, located in the Department of Labor, had become a keystone for women who believed in the difference argument. We sometimes call these women social feminists. They created a bureaucratic agency that collected data about children, advised their mothers as to how to feed and rear them, and proposed government policies that would foster beneficial government actions. Social feminists, who also founded the Women's Bureau in 1919 and could be found in reform groups like the National Consumers Leagues and the Women's Trade Union League, became strong advocates for protecting women. But they quickly came to blows with equality feminists like Alice Paul and her friend Lucy Burns, the founders of the National Women's Party. They'd imagined that the vote would open the door to real equality for women, so after women got the vote, they moved almost immediately to sponsor an equal rights amendment to the Constitution. The first Equal Rights Amendment was introduced by the National Women's Party in 1923, 75 years after the Seneca Falls Convention. It read, "Men and women shall have equal rights throughout the United States and every place subject to its jurisdiction." But that kind of equality, opponents soon began to call it a blanket equality, ran afoul of those like Annie Nathan Meyer, Julia Lathrop of the Children's Bureau, and Mary Anderson of the Women's Bureau, who hoped to use the vote to persuade male legislators to protect and defend women and their children. Equality, the social feminists thought, might mean that wage-earning women would lose their hard-won protections against long hours and poor safety conditions in the workplace. Desperately, they tried to persuade Alice Paul to attach a saving clause to the amendment, a clause that would make it possible for labor legislation to treat men and women differently. The National Women's Party refused. The battle between equality feminists and social feminists created a face-off that would last until the early 1970s. It evoked both class and race privilege, and yet alliances were never smooth. Most wage-earning women, black and white, who wanted the vote in order to legislate for reduced working hours, better working conditions, sanitation in the workplace, and access to child-rearing advice, allied with social feminists. But some better-off women and professional women protested that labor legislation might deny them equal access to jobs in the wage labor force, to say nothing of their dignity as workers. After all, professional women and affluent women did not believe they needed state protection. Now their desire for the vote conflicted with the desires of ordinary working women who had wanted it for exactly the opposite reason. Most African American women who still worked at domestic jobs found their interests in protection, from which they were perhaps ironically excluded, at odds with the interests of their female employers, who were intent on extracting as much labor from them as possible. While white women were fighting over how to protect themselves, Black women sought access to the jobs that offered protection.